So in another webinar, I explained to you how you can track your hours that the guys are working and see exactly what they're working on at the moment and how much they worked on today, etc., etc. Now, once you come to the end of the job, you can use those hours to analyze what happened in each particular job. So in this particular case, I'm going to look at a job number 9. And what is interesting is that some of the values are in red and some of the values are in green. Now, you'll notice that the values that are in red, so this is an actual hours, the actual hours that were worked in the stripping and assembly was 2.10 hours, and the actual quoted hours in the stripping assembly is 1.5. So as soon as it goes over, then it gets marked as red. Anything with green, it means that it's under. So we would look at items in red. Those would be the ones that are particularly interesting as soon as there's something that's more or that's over. And that is a sort of a total, a summary total of what's happening in the actual physical detail. So we could go and click on the detail section of the staff work, and you can see, okay, so we've got Tinus van Rooy and Wendy Brown working in the panel beating sections to generate 2.05, and we've got assembly. There's some Leonard September is doing assembly, and stripping and assembly is done by him. Now, the other thing is when you set up your staff, you can enter each staff, and when you set their remuneration to their monthly salary plus all the deductions and additions, then that comes out at a rate per hour of 95 Rand 23. Now that 95 Rand 23 is utilized to calculate what is our actual spend on this particular job in terms of labor. So you'll see that Wendy Brown there, 95 Rand 23 is her rate. So for every time she clocks in, then the time worked is going to allocate to her rate, and you can come out with the actual physical cost of what that labor cost us to do that particular job. Now that becomes more interesting because when we do an analysis on the whole job, then you can see, okay, where am I going in terms of my profit of each particular job. So this gives you a breakdown of I've sold 705 Rand of stripping. The actual labor cost me 111 Rand 63, and the variance, and then the assembly was 69 Rand, and the variance is 524 Rand 24. Now, none of these values is actually inserted anywhere other than when the staff is clocking in and clocking out, and obviously on the setup of the labor for the actual rates. And then that gives you a very accurate picture of where you're going wrong or where you're succeeding in any particular job. And then you can obviously analyze those as per each job that you're wanting to do. If there was consumables assigned to the job, then that would also add to the value. And you can see the time frame on a graphical point of view. The other thing is when an employee first starts working on the job, that job gets booked into a particular station. And so once the employee finishes working and the job sits idle in a particular station, then you can see where there are bottlenecks in your shop. If there are regular times where a car is sitting idle in a particular part of the shop, then you can obviously analyze why the flow of the shop is not working